although normally we take sort of destinationless drives, today we've actually got a destination. How do people get into truck restoring as opposed to car restoring or anything else?
I guess they have a really big shop, so they figured they might as well do something different with it. I believe Enzo said, told him, Lamborghini said, you stick to building tractors and I'll stick to building sports cars. And the rest is history. Put about 6 million miles on this truck.
Absolutely astonishing. And that's, of course, again, we think about the mileages that cars get, but when you think about an over-the-road truck, 1 million miles is sort of normal for an over-the-road truck.
Yeah, most Peterbilts out there have 1 million miles on them, so. We're actually going to go look at the first tractor that was part of the collection. It was a John Deere M.
A John Deere, everybody loves a Deere. Come on. I've always been somebody who finds beauty in utility. In fact, sometimes I can find more beauty in utility than in sportiness or luxury. And this is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about. I'm driving a 1928 Ford Model A, which is nicknamed Gus, and for a good reason, which I'll tell you in a moment. And it's a typical hot rodders conversion, post-war conversion of a Model A pickup truck for both utility and for fun. This has got a Mercury flathead V8 in it with twin Stromberg carbs, an Offenhauser head, and puts out probably about 120 horsepower, a far cry from the original four-cylinder engine that this car had, and even from that of the early Ford V8s. The Mercury was the hot one, and when hotted up with these great accessories in period, it really was something to contend with. And this particular Model A truck was modified by a fellow named Gus Rollins. Gus Rollins built this, and you see on the front bumper, that big broad front bumper, to be a pusher. And it's a pusher for his Lakes Roadster. Gus ran in the Southern California Timing Association runs on the dry lakes, very successful in the late 1940s, and this truck played a big part in his success. And it's really interesting that when you think about modifying trucks, it's always for a practical reason. And this is probably among the most practical you can think of. Both a reliable and strong and powerful pusher, plus great to carry parts in. And I'm a particular fan of cars of this era because by 1928, it was no longer either a plaything for the wealthy or an unreliable adventure to go driving. They had their place in the utility of everyday life, and nothing proved that more than Ford trucks. Ford, of course, has been the truck master in the post-World War II period, but it was really trucks like this, and even some of the Model T trucks, that really proved how Ford had combined utility and practicality with usability. And again, the idea that something built for a specific purpose could be so enjoyable many decades after it was built is just a terrific thing. This particular truck, again, because of its period modifications, including the Drogo drop front axle in the typical hot rodder style of the time, custom car builder, and its twin exhausts, it's got modified lifters. It's really something that's meant to really be used and to go. And I just love the condition of this truck. It is not a restored truck. It is a lovingly cared for and slightly refurbished truck that really shows signs of its life. It did have some further modifications after its use in period as a Lakes Racer pusher. Right now it's got a 4-speed gearbox from an early Ford truck, F-150 truck, and it provides a great overdrive for this truck over 55 miles per hour. I'm not going at 55, so I'm still in third gear, and it's very tractable. I mean, you put your foot down the throttle and you get response. This is a truck that you could drive in modern traffic on modern roads without too much fear. And that's a really good thing, because although normally we take sort of destinationless drives here in the cars on the Audrain Museum Network, today we've actually got a destination. Here we are at the Keystone Truck Tractor Museum, and this is an amazing place. I was fortunate enough to visit this place a few weeks ago, and I was absolutely overwhelmed. Whether you have an interest, you think, in trucks or tractors, you will be amazed at what you will see here. This is a collection like no other on earth. And as I said, it's a really overwhelming place. But we're going to be joined by an expert here who will show us the 5 things that the first-time visitor to this museum has to see. Let's take a look. I'm here with Dylan Simmons, Assistant Curator of the Keystone Truck Tractor Museum. And Dylan, this is an amazing place. And how do you actually keep track of all this stuff? First of all, actually, let's take a step back. When was the museum founded?
It was founded in 2010, was when we first opened up. It was a private collection. We started with about 190 tractors then. And since 2010, we've added right around 100 trucks and 50 cars, 10 or 15 more tractors. We're up to about 350 vehicles now. Unbelievable.
And keeping this all organized and themed has got to be a big challenge, because when you get a new tractor or a new truck in, it's not like, oh, we'll just move these 3 and just fit it in.
Yeah, we try to get them in where they fit in the best at. Like, we just got this Powell in. We had to move a couple other cars to make room for it and make it work in here.
Well, you know, I mentioned that we were going to see sort of 5 things that you want to see when you come here for a first visit. And this is certainly one of them, because one of the things that this museum does, and does so incredibly well, is it mixes the very familiar with the, oh my God, what's that? And we are standing in front of an, oh my God, what's that? Tell us about this, Dylan.
Powell, they were out of Compton, California. Very unusual. They were built, this was a 56 model. They built for 3 years, 55, 56, 57. But it's built on a 1941 Plymouth chassis and engine, transmission. They just built a fiberglass body around it.
Wow, that is absolutely astonishing. And it's carrying a motorcycle as well.
Yes, got a Powell motor scooter in the back. They were known, that's what they started with, was those scooters just like that one. And they kind of got into the pickup, and they've made a couple SUVs like this too. So,
absolutely astonishing. So this is the absolutely unseen anywhere. Let's go take a look at the next highlight here at the Keystone.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Now, Dylan, we're next to something that seems sort of more appropriate for this museum, but it's still something rather unusual.
Yes.
What do we got here?
This is a 1949 Peterbilt named El Turbo by its second owner, actually. Gene Smith in California had this truck. Got it in 1970 and ran it up and down the West Coast. Put about 6 million miles on this truck.
Absolutely astonishing. And that's, of course, again, we think about the mileages that cars get, but when you think about an over-the-road truck, 1 million miles is sort of normal for an over-the-road truck.
Yeah, most Peterbilts out there have 1 million miles on them, so.
And it's also something that, this is a great example of the personalization that you see in trucks. I mean, the sleeper compartment is absolutely unbelievable. And just the decoration, the way that the owner just made this truck his own. You know, obviously Peterbilt built tens of thousands of trucks just like this, but you know, this is one that immediately would be recognizable. And I think that relationship that truckers have with their vehicles, I think is something that's really important and is very relatable to anybody who's a real car nut, because to me, if you're really a car nut, you have an emotional connection with your vehicle. And especially for these, for a commercial, it's even more important because it's your life, it's your livelihood.
Absolutely.
And so a truck like this, where might the museum have found it?
I was actually, the next owner after Gene was Jerry Howard. He was a truck collector in Ohio, and we acquired it from him, along with a few other pieces in here.
And that's got to be a very interesting thing too, the network of truck collectors. You know, as an appraiser, the first time I had to appraise some trucks, it was very interesting. I called some friends of mine who were truck collectors, and I learned something which was obvious once I heard it, but wasn't so obvious when I first learned it, which was that oftentimes the value of trucks is inversely related to the size of the truck, because a truck that someone can put into either a house garage or normal RV garage frequently is worth a lot more than a big truck like this, because you have to have a place to put it.
Oh yeah, they're definitely hard to store, especially one as big as El Turbo.
Exactly. So let's take a look at the next highlight here.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, Dylan, I'm very familiar with this. It's a Dodge truck, some sort of one of the power wagons. But so, what's so special about this?
This is a 1940 Dodge road tractor, and it actually has a Chrysler 6-cylinder diesel in it. And we believe that it is the only Chrysler diesel in a truck still in existence.
That is absolutely astonishing, because they typically bought diesels from other engine manufacturers.
Yes.
They did not manufacture them themselves. And so again, this has got to be incredibly rare beast. Where did the museum find this truck?
This one was found out of another museum in Connecticut.
And that brings us to another question. During my last visit, I marveled at the condition of these trucks. It's just absolutely astonishing. And that you work with very specialized restorers who just work on these trucks.
Yes.
And how do people get into truck restoring as opposed to car restoring or anything else?
I guess they have a really big shop, so they figured they might as well do something different with it.
That's a very good point. I mean, finding a paint booth big enough to accommodate trucks has got to be difficult.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like you said, just no normal garage can house one of these things. So you got to have a special shop, special paint booth, special everything.
It's absolutely astonishing. And again, the idea that you seek these very rare pieces, I think, is absolutely amazing. That's a phenomenal truck, Dylan. But now let's go to my favorite, the tractors.
All right, let's go.
Dylan, I'm really glad you came over to this tractor, because when I was here a couple of weeks ago, I immediately gravitated towards this because it is absolutely astonishing and not what people think of when they think of a tractor. So tell us the story of this one.
This is called the Minneapolis Moline UDLX. It was based off of the U Moline, which is right down the road here, except they added fender skirts, engine side panels, a fully enclosed cab. It was all about comfort when they came out with this in 1938. But they just did not do well on the market. They sold a handful of them, then the rest of them dealers sent back to the factory, had them stripped, made into normal U's again. And about 30 or 40 we think just got sold. They're in barns, and now we have one of them in here, and we're the only museum in the United States to have one.
This is amazing too. One of the things that I discovered, I love learning things, are the ways that the absolute definitive use, the specific use that a tractor has, influences its design. And so that's one of the things that fascinated me, and I thought, wow, this is astonishing. Like, why was it built this way? And he said for comfort. And it's interesting that I guess a lot of farmers thought, I don't need to be that comfortable. I want something that's practical, that I can just get to, and if I need to make an adjustment on the engine, I don't have to take side panels off, and I probably get hot in the summertime with an enclosed cab. So, you know, it seems like a great idea, and I'm glad they did it because it's an extraordinary vehicle. But I know that this is probably not on your highlights list, but it is, I think, one of the most interesting looking tractors. When I posted the picture of it to my Instagram, I got lots of comments on it. And it was because of the specific use of the tractor, the way it's designed. The tractor right next door. Can we take a look at that?
Sure.
And now for something slightly different. You know, people saw pictures of this and thought, wow, this is amazing. An aerodynamic tractor. I was like, well, not quite for aerodynamics. So explain to everyone why this tractor is built this way with these fenders.
This is a Moline JTO, and the O stood for orchard. It was designed for orchards and whatnot. A lot of them obviously down in Florida, they used them. And it had the skirts on it, that way when you were going under the trees, it wouldn't get caught and break the branches and just protect your crop, basically.
Practicality with style. I love it.
Yep.
And you know, that's one of the other things that we see throughout this museum is the fact that things that were built for a purpose, there's the expression that goes, function follows form, or form follows function rather. And this is a great example of that. You see that throughout this tractor section because every one of these tractors was built for a specific purpose, for a specific use in a specific place. I think that's fascinating as well. So what's the next tractor on our plan?
We're actually going to go look at the first tractor that was part of the collection.
And what kind of a tractor is that?
It was a John Deere M.
A John Deere. Everybody loves a Deere. Come on. This sea of green is sort of what people expect to see when you visit a tractor museum.
Absolutely.
Because what is a better known name than John Deere? And so this John Deere is the very first acquired by the collection?
Yes, our founder, Keith Jones, he acquired this from his aunt in 1989. It was his uncle's tractor, and he passed away, and he bought this tractor from the estate auction and got it back and restored it a few years later, and that's what started the whole thing. And his aunt ended up giving him the money back that he paid for the tractor. Later on down the road, she said, your uncle wanted you to have it, but wanted you to get it the way you should have.
Well, that's fantastic. Again, it goes back to that emotional connection. And I know that these vehicles are wonderful here in the museum, but you also take some of these trucks and tractors out as well for events.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the events that the museum does.
We go to a couple of different truck shows throughout the year. We just went to one in Ontario, Canada a few months ago. Big collection up there, nice show. And we follow ATHS and go to some of their national shows, and Antique Truck Club of America, we do some shows with them up in Macungie, Pennsylvania. And
I understand that you used to do some tractor pulls as well.
Yes, we still do. Try to get to a couple of those a year. We have a couple pulling tractors that we use, and myself and a couple other people, Keith, and we still go to pulls when we can.
Not these really beautiful ones, though.
No, not these.
Totally different animal that goes there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know that a lot of people watching this video on the Audrain Museum Network are very into foreign cars as well, and John Deere is a great name, and Moline and Alice Chalmers, all that. I think you've got something of a European section here as well. Can we take a look at that?
We have a few up the ramp here.
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right.
Now, this is as far away from that John Deere as you could possibly get. This is a German tractor,
yes.
And this Lanz. What can you tell us about this? The Lanz Bulldog.
Lanz, like you said, German manufacturer. It was called a hot bulb design. So what you do is you take this torch down here and you'd hang it up underneath there, warm the bulb up, and then you'd actually take the steering wheel out of it, take it over to the side, and use the steering wheel to hand crank it. And pull the steering wheel out, put it back in, and go on.
What could go wrong on a nice winter's morning on the farm?
Oh yeah, they would say it would take 30 minutes during the winter to get this thing started.
And definitely the low man on the totem pole got that job.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely astonishing. We had one of these at the Audrain Newport Concours Motor Week a few years ago, and the owner started it up, and it was unbelievable. It was like a fighter plane starting up.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just an amazing racket, and something which has to be experienced to be believed. But let's look at some other European tractors you've got here as well. And this, of course, I'm a big fan of Italian vehicles, and this is fascinating too, this Landini. Landini is apparently the oldest tractor manufacturer in Italy?
Yes, it is. And it's the same basic design as the Lons, hot bulb design, single cylinder. Obviously, this one's a whole lot smaller than the Bulldog. And little about, I want to say it was only about 30 horsepower, excuse me, where opposed to that was about 55 over there.
So what would be the size of the farm and the type of work they would do that would use a tractor like this?
This would have been a smaller, 20, 30 acre farm, I would say. It's very similar to what the farm would have used the John Deere M that we looked at earlier.
Exactly. So now we get to another Italian manufacturer of tractors, and one which a lot of people who are car enthusiasts know about, but they probably haven't seen very many, if any, of, a Lamborghini.
Yes.
And this is very funny because you look at the way this is designed and built, clearly it's a very good tractor. And the fact that Enzo Ferrari made fun of Ferruccio Lamborghini for being a tractor maker, we don't know how many tractors Enzo tried to make, but...
haven't seen one.
Exactly.
And, and I believe Enzo said, told him, Lamborghini said, you stick to building tractors and I'll stick to building sports cars. The rest is history.
Exactly. It was amazing how successful Lamborghini was at this. And this is I should say fairly late, 62, because I am told, and you tell me because you know more about this than I do, but I was told always that Lamborghini got his start in the tractors after World War II by building a lot of his tractors out of surplus Jeep parts, etc.
Yes.
And just repurposing them and then developing them onto his own product.
Yep, that's the way, yep.
Absolutely astonishing. And of course, speaking of high performance in a tractor, there's nothing like a Porsche. Eh? And this is also very interesting because you frequently see the smaller ones, the junior Porsche tractors.
Yes,
this is the full-size deal.
Yes. Yeah, this was like a little bit bigger than the Junior. They had a few models of them.
After the war, before the company was started to build the cars, they had to figure out ways to make money. And obviously everyone was rebuilding, agriculture was very, very important, and the Porsche design studio knew how to design practically anything. And again, thinking just back to Lamborghini and his Porsche, Lamborghini and his tractor, you built what people needed. And so, of course, as soon as they could get out of the tractor business, they did.
Yeah.
But this tractor is responsible for the Porsche company because without this, it wouldn't have existed. So that's an amazing thing. All right, so
absolutely.
What is our final tractor moment?
We got to go back down the ramp and go into the other room down here.
Okie dokie. Dylan, we could spend literally hours here, but we've just got a short amount of time. And this is the last tractor we're looking at. Now, we spoke a little bit about tractor pulls.
Yes.
And we're in front of a tractor that actually is used for tractor pulls. So tell us about this. This looks like a monster.
This is a Farmall Super MTA, one of our pulling tractors. We had about the past couple of years, we have 4 or 5 that we take. A friend of ours named Dwight, he pulled this one. When he passed away, we kind of just put it off to the side in here as kind of a memorial to him. And we pulled this tractor from the 9,000 pound class up to the 11,000 pound class, meaning that's what the tractor weighs when you're pulling.
Wow, absolutely astonishing. And so tell us about these weights that we're seeing here on the side.
They're heavy. No, they're 100, most of them are 100-pound weights. That's what we would do for fun. We'd take these and throw them on the ground and make the tractor weigh 9,000 pounds, throw on 1,000 more pounds, 10 of them, get up to the 10,000. Something nice to do on a hot summer day, but no, we really, all of us enjoyed tractor pulls, and we've been doing it for years.
Well, I never realized that the side benefit of practicing for a tractor pull is the fact you don't have to go to a gym.
Exactly.
It's fantastic. It's 2 in 1.
Oh yeah, I always told my buddies, come out to the pull this weekend and we'll have a good time and don't have to go to the gym for a week, and we're not coming back anymore.
I think probably for a month.
Oh yeah.
Dylan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good having you here.
This is an absolutely amazing place. I can't wait to come back again.
All right, good. I look forward to it.
Well, Gus was right at home with all of his friends and brothers here at the Keystone Truck and Tractor Museum, but we've got to get back. And we'll return to this wonderful place again, and maybe I'll bring Gus along with me. It's going to be fantastic. I hope hope you enjoyed that visit to the museum and meeting some of the folks there. It hopefully has given you a new appreciation for the historic importance of preserving great tractors and trucks from our past and the wonderful stories they tell about our society and culture. And just like Gus, who, behind the wheel of Gus, I just feel the history, going to the dry lakes, racing those cars, modifying your car to make it just a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and more fun to drive. This is fantastic. I absolutely love it.